will start the first block on Blue Mission Med and innovation. I give the floor to Elisa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marta. I'm Elisa Conti. I'm the project manager on BlueMissionMed, and I will take just a couple of minutes to briefly introduce the mission and BlueMissionMed, as there's many familiar names, but many more are new names. So I want to give you an overview. BlueMissionMed is the coordination and support action for the implementation of the mission Ocean and Waters in the Mediterranean Basin. If you can go to the next slide, Marta. So the mission is one of the 5 missions launched by the European Union, and this one is tackling the restoration of the ocean and waters in all our basins. Indeed, we are working in parallel among 4 basins. So it's just not the Mediterranean one, but there's also the Baltic and North Sea, the Danube River and Black Sea, and the Atlantic and Arctic basin. So we are working in a very complex and big ecosystem. We are not alone. We are working toward the same mission, so the restoration of our ocean and waters. In particular, if you can go to the next one, we have 3 objectives that we are trying to reach and tackle by 2030. In particular, sorry, there's an open mic. Thank you so much. In particular, there is the first one regarding the protection and restoration of marine and freshwater ecosystem and the biodiversity. The third objective is the blue economy, the neutrality of the blue economy and circularity. But mostly for what concerns the Mediterranean basin, we have been working in this first phase of the mission towards the prevention and elimination of the pollutions, including and mostly on plastic litter, microplastic, and the reduction of the nutrient losses and chemical pesticides. So we have been tackling different objectives, different goals, working mainly towards, as I said, the prevention and elimination of pollutions. But now we are going towards a bigger phase of the mission towards all 3 objectives. And if you can go to the next slide. As I said, BlueMissionMed is a coordination and support actions that is working with on the whole basin, the whole Mediterranean ecosystem. And what we've been doing in the past 2 years was the setting up, the structuring and the empowering of a multi-actor ecosystem, giving tools, knowledge, capacities, and opportunities to all the stakeholders across many different sectors. If you can go to the next slide. As I said, we are working mainly in focusing on the second objectives, but if you can go on the next one, which is last to the end, what we have been doing is the boosting of a well-functioning basic-scale innovation ecosystem that is meant to attract investors and businesses. And today we are here towards this goal. We want to facilitate coherence, alignment, and monitoring of the different policies at different levels. And we are providing technical services, assistance, and what we've been doing, and today is a proof of it, was the engagement of different actors from the basin at different scales. And the very last slide, Marta, it's sorry, I will just read. It's something important that I wanted to highlight, that what we have been doing the past 3 years was made also thanks to the 7 national regional hubs that BlueMissionMed have set up and supported, as they've been key to implement our activities at the national and regional levels. As we all know, the Mediterranean ecosystem is a quite complex one, made with different actors, different languages, cultures, and the hubs have been a key to reach different stakeholders at the different level. So this was just an overview of the mission, and I would like to give now the floor to Irene, who I thank Irene, Marta, and all the Ecoris team, Matteo, for today's event. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Elisa, for this great overview on what we're trying to do with the mission and BlueMissionMed. I will be super brief. I just wanted to complement a little bit what Elisa mentioned on BlueMissionMed and dig a little bit more deeply on the support that we are trying to provide to different stakeholders. Hello. There's some. Okay. Sorry about that. So yeah. talking about the support that we're trying to provide with this project, which is basically tailored to help innovative solution providers in scaling up and matchmaking with potential adopters and help them identify different sources of funding. So in a nutshell, if we go to the next slide, please. I wanted to start by framing the discussion with one of the key outcomes of our BlueMissionMed project so far, which was to map a catalog of solutions, innovative transformative solutions in different areas. So as you can see here in this slide, we're working with innovation to mainly contribute to address objective 2 of the mission on pollution prevention and reduction in the Mediterranean. So the solutions that we have mapped, which can be technological, but also can be social or governance solutions, they span from, for instance, bio-based innovation, including, for instance, restoring biotechnologies, developing alternatives to pollutants through new materials, bio-based animal feed, fertilizers, and recycling and upcycling. That's one of the main blocks. Then we also work on monitoring, collecting, and detecting pollution technologies, and finally, smart solutions for waste, water, and energy. So these are the main areas where we see innovation flourishing for the mission and where we have focused a little bit our intervention. So if we go to the next slide, here we summarize very briefly what we try to do as a support programs, which is basically supporting the innovation ecosystem in the Med. So, and as you can see in the upper part of this graph, on one hand, we support the solution providers in upscaling by giving them targeted matchmaking support, access to finance, capacity building and training, etc., both to early stage solutions, so with lower TRL, or actually those who are ready to the market and commercially viable. So that's one part of our support. And then also, as you can see in the blue boxes of this graph, we also provide support to public authorities and to society at large in identifying relevant solutions to meet their policy targets, on networking and ensuring knowledge transfer between different levels of government. This is a very short summary of what we try to do, but aware of time, we can go maybe to the last slide I wanted to introduce you, which is, this kind of frames a little bit the discussion for today. As one of the key services, as I mentioned, that we provide to stakeholders is helping, acting a bit as a compass ourselves, helping stakeholders navigate the very complex and broad financial landscape that exists to support mission-related innovation. So, of course, EU funding programs play a key role here. Horizon Europe, as you know, is the cornerstone of the funding for Horizon. For the mission. They have dedicated calls providing funding, but not also that, also technical assistance and support. But there are also other funds like MFAF, LIFE, the EIC accelerators, pathfinders, etc., that can be of use to you. Then we also look at national and regional funding, but also private and philanthropic funding. So for today, for framing today's discussion, if we go to the next slide, of course, we focus on these two aspects within the national and regional funding, which can be also very diverse. But here we wanted to exploit really today the public procurement of innovative solutions and pre-commercial procurement. So I leave it here from my side, and I give the floor to my colleague Matteo Bocci, who will be explaining a little bit why innovation procurement is an important tool for the mission mission. So thank you so much, and Matteo, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Irene and all. Thank you, everyone. So yeah, next slide, Marta. So yeah, we've seen already in the previous session like this that we really need to scale up the level of technology of solution to go to the market. But then to do that, also an important role is this idea of moving from technology provider to kind of business and market orientated business, and looking at the understanding of the market, testing, piloting. And for this, and is the next slide, the key role is this idea of kind of business model canvas, where you really look at the value proposition, understand the market, test, pilot. So these are essential elements beyond, let's say, the TRL. So really how to move to the market. And so next slide, Marta. So to do so, we've noticed that, in many occasions, including the support that we gave to the solution that we selected, as Irene was and Elisa were presenting. We find a bit of a gap because there's usually the transition from prototype to really kind of business cases, market analysis, and testing require maybe a few €100,000, really a couple, and those are money that are not easily available because they're maybe too small for grants. They could be local grants, but not always. Even venture capitalists, they really look at a higher level of return. Therefore, they look at a higher level of investment, as you see here. I mean, of course, there's a whole number, and this is the next slide, a whole number of other sources of financing. We have investigated in the previous webinar masterclass innovative finance to core, so ways to really get more focused, tailored, and small scale financing. But next slide, the dilemma persists in a sense that we have supply of solution, demand of solution, but there's a limited amount of money so far in the region, particularly in the Mediterranean, but not only, to really bridge these two sides and come out with market-orientated solutions. So next slide, thanks. The problem is that at the local level, we spoke about ecosystem, and the innovation ecosystem are still very much fragmented. There's markets, financial sector, public sector, even local communities are still somehow silos. There's not much communication and much interaction, and there's need for getting together at the local level and really shaping up innovation ecosystem that could be enabling for having a new solution. So next slide. In a way, what we look here is an understanding of how practice like innovative pre-commercial procurement could help shaping up this local ecosystem, shaping up the relation between the different actors, really being a catalyst to consolidate a multi-stakeholder discussion at a very early stage. So try to really very early stage than the commercial procurement, try to bring together different stakeholders. So next slide. You see that very basically then our colleagues will discuss much further, but in a way the traditional, so it's a gray line, the traditional procurement really look at engaging the different, wait, there is a new person not muted, I will mute, apologies. So the traditional procurement really looks at bringing in stakeholders together at a later stage when the tender is out, and then in the contract execution, like abandoning them a bit and focusing on the selected supplier. In a way, innovative procurement and new approach to procurement do the other way around. So really start by the early stage by engaging with different actors, and it's a key role of this brokerage played by entities engaged in pre-commercial procurement, where really different stakeholders get together, try to understand the problem at stake, try to understand what are the solutions, try to really shape up this innovation ecosystem. And this is a little bit the lens through which we would like to see the discussion today and the use of innovative procurement in the future. So the last slide is really how we can use these approaches at the territorial level, so notably maybe regional authorities, but maybe local authorities in general, port authorities, or other environmental agencies. Really, how could you use this type of approaches, which are not new, but are still a bit challenging and still not digested entirely. So there's a lot of potential to really shape up the local ecosystem, bringing together different actors, including potential investors, including companies and researchers, to really pull up structure approaches at the local level. So next slide, and I'm done with this, I guess. So the idea is really that today we had 3 main sessions, really, in the sense that we will benefit from Sarah Bedin, PCP Academy, to have a bit of an overview of the state of play, the what and why of pre-commercial procurement. We will have Q&A, and then we will get more in-depth case studies, not really like lesson learned from project on what are the pros, what are the cons, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities at a different level, really, territorial, municipality, and EU level. So without much ado, I stop from here, and then of course we will have an open discussion. So I will see you in a way later on for steering the overall discussion. But I leave it back to Irene and then Sarah to come with the actual content of this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. I'm sorry for that. Can you hear me better now? Sorry for that. Okay, Sarah, please, you can go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you. I share my presentation with you. Please give me a feedback if it's...
Yeah, that's good. If you can just put it in full screen, it's even better.
Yeah, just looking at... Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Now it's better, I hope. Okay. So,
absolutely. Please go ahead.
Thank you for this invitation. I will do my best to synthesize the rationale of this European policy first, which is named Innovation Public Procurement as a global comprehensive name that includes different tools and policies. My organization, PCP Academy, supports end-to-end innovation uptake, starting from demand articulation and performance outcome-based specification, assisting procurers, public and private procurers, to define innovation needs, to conduct state-of-the-art assessment and open market consultation processes, and to support the management of phase PCP and PPI deployment, and to assist in IPR's valorization and regulatory readiness, and providing research, studies, evidence frameworks to study and to detect impact generated by these instruments. First of all, we see that across Europe, the process through which innovative solutions and technology are industrialized, commercialized, and ultimately adopted by end user continues to struggle due to persistent market failure. Although early research and development may generate promising prototypes, the mechanism that should translate this innovation into large-scale public sector uptake remain weak. And despite the long-standing evidence, I would say, European innovation policy still relies predominantly on supply side research and development instruments, mainly grants that incentivize firms or research bodies to undertake research, including projects that are relevant for public service needs. In this domain, such instruments rarely guarantee that solutions become deployable, interoperable, certifiable, and aligned with long-term public interest. Even when suppliers are capable to demonstrate performance improvement during piloting or testing phases, the public sector frequently faces the risk of supplier lock-in. That is the difficulty or impossibility to adjust the development according to the genuine needs. Once development is nearly complete and intellectual property rights have been secured, suppliers have limited flexibility to accommodate new requirements, to adapt core design features, and incorporating unforeseen public sector needs at a late stage, tends to be extremely costly, technically unfeasible, and reduce the responsiveness and long-term relevance of the innovation. Each supplier is naturally driven to pursue the most rapid and profitably commercial pathway, which is not always compatible with the long-term impact and public value objectives that procurers are mandated to deliver. And this alignment or misalignment remains one of the key obstacles to effective innovation uptake. We see that demand-side tools like PCP and PPI align research and development and innovation efforts with real needs since the beginning, moving from finding a technology and buying in to ask the market to solve a problem, to structure competition from the outset, provides assured procurement as a strategic lever rather than a compliance tool. It's very important, as we will see, that the procurers are able through these instruments to structure the competition and to enable competition to along the innovation life cycle. A few definitions. What is innovation procurement? The first definition is found in the directive, 2014 directive, is on the OECD definition. And innovation is defined as a new or significantly improved product, service, or process. So innovation procurement refers to any procurement that has one or both the following aspects. It by the process of innovation, so the intellectual work, the research and development services to generate new solutions, and buying of the outcomes of innovation created by others. So innovation covers, when we talk about innovation procurement, we refer to the R&D and the commercialization deployment of innovative solutions. So innovation procurement covers the core research and development services procurement. And one approach to procure research and development services is PCP, pre-commercial public procurement, one of the instruments. And the public procurement of innovative solutions, when the solutions are ready to be marketed, and public procurement that combine the research and development services and the resulting innovative solutions. So we have basically three types of instruments. We have another significant relevant definition about public procurement of research and development. What covers research and development? It covers fundamental research, applied research, and experimental development. We have to remember that the experimental development may include limited production or supply of a first product or first series in order to incorporate the results of field testing and to fully demonstrate that the product or the service or the process is suitable for production or supply in quantity acceptable to recover the research and development cost. But the research and development procurement does not extend to quantity production or supply of commercial volume of the solutions. So we have introduced the two concepts, what innovation procurement covers and what research and development procurement can cover. Based on that, we have 3 instruments. Depending on the TRLs, starting from the bottom one, TRL 1, basic principle observes, up to 9, TRL 9, we can manage this life cycle, innovation life cycle through 3 types of instruments. Pre-commercial public procurement typically cover the TRL 2 up to TRL 7 or 8. After that, the public procurement of innovative solution can be implemented. So PCP and PPI are 2 complementary instruments to determine the uptake of innovation. Conversely, we have innovation partnership as a tool, as an instrument that can be implemented to purchase since beforehand, to be committed beforehand to purchase the R&D services, and the result emerged from these research and development activities. So the procurers is already committed to procure the resulting solution, even if they have no idea of what performance can be determined, can be demonstrated on the market. The pre-commercial public procurement and PPI tools represent an unbundled instrument where one is complementary to the other, and one is an enabling tool to purchase innovation in a more conscious way and having the risk big significant investment. I think of innovation. We can see the instruments in a flow where R&D purchase can be managed through pre-commercial public procurement, and I want to emphasize 3 aspects of these particular instruments. The first is that PCP is articulated in phases. You can choose based on the type of innovation you are dealing with. If 2 phases are enough, suitable for your case, or 3 phases are suitable, best implemented for the innovation you are dealing with. The second characteristic is that PCP is a multiple sourcing contract, so is not awarded to a single procurer, to a single supplier, but in each phase you have the awarding of the contract to multiple suppliers that compete in parallel to develop the idea, to conceptualize, to design the idea, the solutions, to prototype the solutions, and importantly, most importantly, to implement, to test the solutions, the innovation in a real context. And this exercise is conducted in parallel. The public procurement of innovative solutions is not a particular procedure, is a set of instruments according the directive using open call for tender, using technical dialogue, using restricted procedure, negotiated procedure. You can use all the procurement procedure fixed in the directive and national law, procurement law, with a view on defining the need in functional and performance terms without prescribing in very specific terms and particular technologies. So giving room to the market to propose and solutions that have an inherent characteristics of innovation, an inherent innovation characteristics. These are the main characteristics of these instruments that, I repeat, are complementary. So the public demand toolbox cover all the innovation life cycle, and the design levers are, in my experience, the formal IPR's governance, the certification in late PCP if the budget authorize it, and we will see the other recommendation we can find in the implementation at European level. So PCP and PPI has revealed to be capable to unlock the full potential of innovation in public services, and these instruments can be implemented and supported through a continuous demand-driven pipeline that provide financial continuity, regulatory clarity, and structured pathways to deployment. The public procurement steering PCP and PPI pipelines with no isolated grants works very well, and this is demonstrated at European level. What the evidence says. I have analyzed the European-funded PCPs and PPIs because we have to mention that also in Horizon Europe, PCP and PPI are funded by European Commission, meaning that European Commission directly fund the procurers, public and private procurers, that are committed to develop, monitor, implement PCP and PPIs, cross-border PCP and PPIs. So I have analyzed this particular set of innovation procurement exercises and actions, and what emerged. It emerged that the SMEs have a clear role in this action. 75% is participation is acted by SMEs or startup. The self-assessment of the solution potential is quite high, but when we see the deployment, we see that 58% reveal some uptake, and the rest known yet after a number of years after the completion of the project. So we have to detect and analyze the barriers. The barriers can be detected in the certification delays, in regulatory burdens, and cross-border frictions that are not related to the legal legal procurement framework, but more in the authorization for the testing in multiple sites, in the authorization, in the certification and standardization of the results. Concerning IPRs, we see that many projects, so many suppliers generate new intellectual property, but fewer formalize it. The main barriers are the in-house expertise, but more than this, the legal costs and professional costs that are quite high to provide an incentive for companies to formally protect IPRs. The impact on the supply side is quite promising. 90% detect or declare business and job growth. 85% declare to have increased the investment and established more partnership and more capability to participate in investment projects, and 95% in qualifying better their own offering, market offering. There are still structural gaps. There is a funding discontinuity, fragmented demand, and limited visibility of opportunities and procurement tender in the TED, tender electronic daily. So the procurers also have a clear preference based on the analysis and monitoring that I have conducted, I repeat, limited to the European funded project. But I can say that based on my experience, this is reflected also on a national level. PCP, the clear preference of procurers is to drive innovation, to be sit in the driving seat for the innovation. So the combination is PCP up to high TRLs, so up to 8 TRL 8, and then PPI for deployment. Pathways relying on supply-side instruments are seen as less reliable from the procurers. We said already that suppliers confirm that over 70% 70% confirms that PCP and PPI are more effective than other European schemas. So they appreciate these instruments, and they value most the iterative feedback from procurers, because the articulation in phases give them the possibility to receive early feedback from procurers, and they can adjust and modify the innovation when is economically feasible. They have visibility and dissemination by buyers, and they assess the test beds and real-world pilots during the PCP. So the combination PCP and PPI, and eventually complemented by a European Innovation Council accelerator for scale-up, is strongly appreciated. As I said, SMEs dominate this action. And for both PCP and PPI, almost all procurers said that they would not have done these initiatives without European funding. So this is a limitation that we do not respect. Still clear evidence, but is European funding unlocks risky innovation procurement. So is an action that provides support, but unfortunately the funding are not so planned in advance, are not high, are very limited. Concerning the adoption after the PCP is quite positive. Around 80% of procurement deploy something, small volumes or full procurement or customized integration, but yet full rollout is often blocked because PCP budgets are too small to reach TRL 8 or 9. That is important to enable also certification of the results, because SMEs struggle to qualify for large PPI tenders, and is not predictable the follow-up funding for PCP. There are also other scaling needs consisting in larger buyer scopes. The implementation of demand is quite crucial to enable companies and SMEs to develop innovation at the right scale and to assure harmonized certification across Europe. We said this aspect. A focus is related to the difficulty companies find to detect opportunities, innovation tenders on TED. Indeed, 60% learned about tenders via contracting authority website and only 10% via the portal, European portal, and 55 face difficulty identified innovation opportunities because these are not clearly classified as innovation. Here there is a slide taken from a report, the strategic use of public procurement for innovation in the digital economy, conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and where is shown the entity of the published procurement, which is a very limited portion, and the portion colored in black is the published procurement that explicitly classify the innovation, so that explicitly define the PPI nature of the procurement. So you can, as you can see, the opportunities are not easily detectable from companies. Okay, coming to proposals. There is an area that I call financial continuity and scale. The goal, the objective would be to establish a dedicated multi-annual PCP and PPI pipelines with very predictable budget for the procurers, public procurements, and regular cutoff. Offer fast-track access to the European Innovation Council Accelerator for successful PCP suppliers, and successful PCP suppliers, in my view, need to be stated by the procurers and no others. Introduce eventually scalability voucher to stimulate the diffusion of PCP-derived solutions also in the private market. Create a reinvestment fund, enabling a conditional deferred contribution linked to IPR's exploitation. What I have not said is that PCP is very sophisticated mechanism where the public procurers do not pay the entire value of the research and development, because these research and development services are not conducted based on exclusivity clause. So being not exclusive paid, the procurers, the public procurers have the right to obtain a value for the IPRs maintained by the suppliers. So there is this compensation that can be provided ex ante or ex post in form of royalties to compensate the investment of the public sector in research and development, where the clauses, contractual clauses, assign the IPR's exploitation to the suppliers that are best placed to exploit innovation. So my idea is to create a reinvestment fund to enable the circle in funding innovation based on IPR's exploitation. This can, in my opinion, enable the scalability and can provide incentive for procurers to undertake innovation procurement. Other aspect related to normative regulatory enablement, engage regulators since the earliest stage, in my opinion and experience, is fundamental. And PCP can be used as a regulatory sandbox. Integrate certification and market authorization pathways into the PCP phases. This will be extremely important. It's clear that the budget needs to allow this, but it's important to include this step to avoid market failure after. And importantly, then we will talk about this topic also later on, promote mutual recognition of validation results across member states and remove, as much as possible, local registry and local barriers that authorize only national suppliers to intervene in local national or local fields. To enable cross-border procurement, cross-border validation of innovation, and ultimately to realize the single market and provide suppliers, SMEs, opportunities to growth and to internationalize their business. Implement from a governance and program design to facilitate joint cross-border procurement, which is, in my opinion, the value of European funding, and create a PCP to program transfer protocols, refer to LIFE, Europe for Health, innovation funds, and other funds. So there has to be some transfer protocols so innovations arising from PCP funded instruments can be transferred, can be adopted through other programs and funding programs. At territorial level, the use of structural and cohesion funds can be enhanced for the PPI deployment. Apply a seal of excellence to PCP outcomes, again, if these outcomes are validated from the buyers, and support last mile uptake through territorial innovation agents eventually, and introduce the fund uptake flex for high quality PCP results. To strengthen the supplier readiness, IPR strategies need to be supported and need to be facilitated as bad access also after the PCP, because the PCP hardly achieved TRL 8 and is very needed from the companies to have possibility to validate solutions cross-border through other demonstrations. these are the proposals that I have advanced. We can open discussion on next steps. What I want to say, linking to, sorry.
No, please go ahead, Sara. Are you finishing now with your intervention? Because we were foreseeing well, a couple of minutes for questions, but
Yes.
we're a little bit over time. So maybe what we can do is keep the questions for the final open discussion once everyone has presented. And yes, you can maybe wrap up with these next steps that you had lined up here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel free to conclude, Sara, and then we will discuss.
No, just I was thinking to link to your introduction to the link that can be determined with venture capitalists and venture capital. I think that venture capitalists have time horizons for achieving returns that are often incompatible with the development of radical innovation, which is the object of PCP, because what I haven't said is that PCP concern very radical innovation, not incremental innovation. And so venture capitalists tend to manage impassioned capital, but patient public sector investment plays a key role in supporting especially capital intensive technology. I'm particularly not in favor to develop through PCP software or app or software. I'm more favorable, and I saw many impact in PCP used to support capital intensive technology development that are far from market entry, and large financial resources are needed, and competition takes place in complex market from a regulatory standpoint. So at the same time, I think that an innovation system that relies on public support is not sustainable from an economic and political point of view. So it's quite important to ensure a return to a society. Again, taxpayers can see the benefit generated by public investment through the implementation of PPI, that is the uptake of innovation, but also in the sharing of the benefits arising from the innovation through these kind of funds, rotation funds that can be created through the IPRs generated resources.
Maybe, Sarah, yeah, I mean, it's all very relevant and interesting. And indeed, if you don't mind, maybe we ask already the colleagues that are presenting their lessons, including yourself later on, to maybe also start reflecting through those lens. It is certainly something that I would like to keep for the last discussion, if we manage to stay on time, because yeah, what you say, it's very interesting for us also. Just briefly mentioning, and then I go back to, if it's fine with you, Sarah, then I go back to Irene. We are been in discussion with different entities. Notably, we had this Ecomondo final event where we engage with regions, and there's an ongoing cooperation and willingness to cooperate between regions. And what you say of having coordinated effort would really help. There are examples of coordinated funding through local regional grants, but clearly that could be escalated to coordinated procurement of innovation based on common needs, because that would also help to create the premises for then capitalization and sharing of the results across region, and maybe having a broader investment return potential. So maybe we're saying already too much, but it's certainly very interesting, and I think it even gets more useful for our tools. And if it's fine with you, I would suggest to stop it here and keep exactly
Yes,
this
of course.
point to discuss toward the end, because that's really very focusing. And thanks a lot for I mean, a lot of information,
Thanks
but
to you.
very easy to follow and very helpful.
Yes,
So
indeed.
maybe
Thank
yeah,
you.
thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was very insightful. I would also like to add another point, if possible, for discussion later, a barrier that you mentioned, which relates to the fact that PCP is not so likely to happen without this EU funding support. And then later on, you did mention possibilities for maybe using these funds as levers, not the EU funds as levers for PCP to happen, for instance, ERDF funds or the Seal of Excellence for EIC, etc. So these are all very interesting instruments that we would like to explore more in depth, how to use these in synergy as an enabler for the PCP deployment more widely, more broadly. So let's also try to keep that in mind for discussion later and comments from colleagues. Thank you so much. That was really interesting. So now moving on. Yeah. Thank you. Moving on to the next block, then we would like to, well, after this, let's say, setting the scene, theoretical, but also practical in terms of lessons, we would like to hear from cases, real cases of projects working on PCP at different levels. So we will hear from examples at regional territorial level, including our speaker, Ana Isabel Peiró from Corvers. You will also hear PCP examples at more local municipality level, and we will have MedCities, Noé Vietnam with us. So let's maybe move on, aware of time, into the first speaker we have lined up for you. Ana Isabel, are you here with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Should I share my screen? Can I?
Yes.
Yeah, if you prefer. No worries.
Yeah, I mean, okay, perfect. So I will just share my screen. Let me know. Probably you're not seeing this in presentation mode. Let me know when it comes in presentation mode. Is it working?
Now,
yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Okay, great. So first, before I even start, also bearing in mind the timing, I would just really like to thank you for inviting us to present here PCP-WISE. I'm Annabel Peiró. I work as a legal consultant at Corvers Commercial and Legal Affairs, and we are one of the supporting organizations from this European funded project. The goal of today's presentation is very briefly explain what we are doing under PCP-WISE, so the overarching objective of the funded project, but really just pinpoint throughout the different phases that we have been conducting in this PCP-WISE, explain lessons learned, where you should focus as a public buyer to really ensure the success of your innovation procurement procedures, to avoid pitfalls and to really facilitate the participation of contractors, of bidders in your innovation procurement procedures. So without further ado, let me just briefly explain to you what we are trying to do in PCP-WISE and the project, and then let's just deep dive into the really interesting part, which would be the lessons learned. So PCP-WISE, as I was saying, it's a European funded project. It already builds on a coordination and support action, also European funded. This project was called Protect. 26 partners from 9 member states are participating in PCP-WISE, 12 of which are public buyers and 14 are support organizations. The whole duration is 36 months, so that covers the preparatory steps of the pre-commercial procurement and the actual pre-commercial procurement. We have an overall budget of 90 million, 12 of which are fully allocated for the actual PCP. And our coordinator comes from Spain, it's Barrabés, and our lead procurer, it's from the Netherlands, Headwatersaphouse, so a regional entity dealing with water in the Netherlands. What are we trying to do in PCP-WISE? So it's a pre-commercial procurement. So of course, the idea is at the end of this PCP, we will have a solution that it should be technology readiness level 7, 8, hopefully, aimed at water management by leveraging space technology and environmental Earth observation data to really tackle challenges related to floods, fires, and infrastructure impacts, both in rural and urban areas, all over Europe. So the overarching objective is to foster, to adapt and mitigate the effects of climate change. You are going to see that in all my slides, there are a lot of information and a lot of images. We are just going to focus on minor details, but in this slide, I wanted you to have a visual of the project so you can see there a pyramid explaining what we are doing on PCP-wise. I also wanted to give you a visual of how pre-commercial procurement works, the different phases, and how once we have a working prototype, PCP stops, and then you launch your PPI, your Public Procurement of Innovative Solutions, a procedure, you would choose a procedure under the directives. And most importantly for us, it's the actual chronology of PCP-wise. As you can see, we have Protect, which is the coordination and support action that I was mentioning at the beginning. This is outside of PCP. It was of PCP-wise. This was conducted before. We really started working on PCP-wise on January 2025. So we were working very, very hard until August 2025 to really develop our tender documentation with all the requirements, award criteria, and so on and so forth. We were extremely happy to publish our tender documents because it was not easy. We published them in September this year, and now we are in the tendering phase. So basically what we are doing is disseminating the information about the upcoming, the tender and the submission deadlines, all the information to submit an offer if contractors are interested. So we are having info webinars, sessions, live sessions, and so on. And if everything goes according to plan, on the 7th of January, we will be receiving all the offers, which we will be evaluating for a month, and we will award a framework agreement and a phase 1 contract in March this year. So this year, sorry, 2026. We are still in 2025. I need to remember that. So now to the part that it's going to be really interesting for you, because here what I want to do is using the different, let's call it steps, and the different lessons learned through PCP-wise, pinpoint aspects that you should be carefully paying attention to, because they will really ensure that you're not just PCPs, if you're launching innovation procurement procedures, that they are a success. And also you will be really easing and facilitating the participation of companies in your tenders. So let's start by the beginning. As you can see here, we have a full explanation not just of the PCP-wise as a whole, so the overarching objective, but what we are expecting, the outcomes that we are expecting from the contractors at the end of each phase. We are also clearly explaining to them what is the budget, the maximum budget that they can expect in each of the phases, and the duration of each of the phases. Why? Because this is crucial for them to have sufficient information to make reasoned and reasonable decisions about their participation. The more information you can provide them well in advance, the easier for them it is going to be to participate. And you want as many companies as possible participating. So if you can share the information, do share it in a really clear and descriptive manner. Internally, also consider what are you going to do if you have leftover budget from the different phases, and give yourself flexibility to allocate this budget in different phases, maybe additional testing, whatever it is. But give it a thought when you are drafting your tender documents. Important aspect as well. Explaining your tender documents, how are the selected contractors going to make it from one phase to the other? This is specifically applicable to pre-commercial procurement, of course, but really explain to them what is considered a successful completion of a phase, and the fact that they are going to be invited to submit an offer for the next phase. Why am I saying this? Because it's typical that contractors believe that if they are successfully completing a phase, and this needs to be clarified in your tender documents because successful completion, it's not the same for each procurement procedure. They do believe that if they have completed successfully phase 1, they automatically make it to phase 2. And that is not the case. They are going to receive an invite to submit an offer for phase 2. And that means that they will need to allocate the resources to develop that second tender. It's important for them to understand, again, to make informed decisions about participation. Additional broad bonus, tip bonus, let's call it. Explain that in your tender documents, but if you have the possibility of conducting info webinars, do explain that live in an info session. Why? Because there will always remain questions, but they can also have the possibility to ask them live, and you can really deep dive into what concerns them. Again, you will be easing their participation in your tender, and that's something really good for you. More things to consider. So when you are drafting your tender documents and when you are having an info session, it's really important to explain to tenderers, to bidders, how are the companies going to be evaluated? So I'm now referring to eligibility aspects, exclusion criteria, selection criteria, and how their offers, their bids are going to be evaluated. So compliance criteria, pass-fail award criteria, weighted award criteria. In this line, it's extremely useful to have a checklist of documents and proof. Let me explain. So for example, you will have an administrative envelope. In that administrative envelope, you will have to include, as a tenderer, all the aspects, all the documentation necessary to prove your eligibility, your exclusion, that you are not under exclusion grounds, and that you comply with all the selection criteria. It's super helpful for providers, for suppliers, for companies to have a checklist of envelope A. These are the documents that go in envelope A. And this is what this document is proving. Why? Because when they are really preparing their offer and they are submitting this documentation, they can literally just go through the list and be like, check, 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 and they do not forget anything. Because please bear in mind, even for public buyers who are used to conducting procurement procedures, innovation procurement is not easy. So imagine for a company, especially if they are a small company and do not have the resources to have a tender department, this is a complex procedure. Let's make it as easy as possible for them to participate and to be successful when submitting a tender, because that's also something that we see. They decide to participate, and then you have to disqualify them for minor mistakes that could have been avoided. So let's try to avoid those minor mistakes. On these lines, be proportional. The whole time I've been saying, please make sure that we ease participation, that we foster participation. So for example, if you need certain experience to participate in the tender, if you need some certain reference cases, you need certain CVs, turnover, whatever it is, okay, let's ask for that. But let's ask just for what we need. Let's not go overboard with what we are asking if we don't really need it. So if you need the CV of a project manager, let's ask for the CV of a project manager. But if 5 years experience as project management serves to you, then let's just ask for 5 years experience, not 10. If we need 10, let's ask for 10. But you see what I mean, right? Let's be proportional in what we are asking from the providers, because otherwise you might really disencourage some companies that would provide with innovative solutions just from participating. They will just not even try. Also, a good tip, from time to time, try to think as if you were a provider. Just try to see the world from the eyes of a provider. Let me give a practical example. So in this PCP-wise, we are using an e-procurement platform. That means that the tenderers need to register to this platform, and then they need to submit their documentation via this platform. A great exercise is to register as a tenderer, so that you see well in advance what kind of issues are they going to face, if you can fix those issues before they actually start registering. And if that is not possible, literally have a guide of how to fix each of the problems that you have faced. So you can see, you do two things in this way. You ensure that you are simplifying as much as possible, and if it's not possible to simplify, you really are explaining them in advance how to fix the problem. You are fostering participation, making it easier for them. On this slide, last but definitely not least, let's be smart. Let's give us flexibility to address minor issues in the documentation submitted. So for example, imagine that in the administrative envelope, the supplier submits an ASPD. Great, because that's a mandatory requirement. An ASPD is a European single procurement document, by the way. So they submit that, perfect. But they forgot about certain things. They didn't feel, I don't know, the turnover, for example. let's give us the flexibility to ask to fix that mistake, because otherwise what might happen is that you have a perfectly good company to participate, and for a clerical mistake, they cannot participate. So just give yourself the flexibility in the tender document to fix these clerical mistakes and to ask for clarifications. And just concluding so that I'm still on time, last remarks, recommendations for you to consider. When we are talking about innovation procurement, there are always going to be intellectual property rights elements arising because we are developing a new solution. So it's crucial that we already have an intellectual property rights scheme explained in our request for tender and further clarified in our framework agreement. By default, I would suggest to have the intellectual property right allocation, so the ownership for the party that developed it, that would be the contractor, so that they can further develop it after the PCP, or even if they are excluded from the PCP. Also because they are going to be then the ones that are responsible for protecting and commercializing. And the public buyer should always get a license to use those intellectual property rights up until the point they were developed. This is really a win-win situation because, as I was saying, the contractor can further develop the solution. They don't just lose the solution, so to say. And the public buyer normally does not have the knowledge to further develop that solution, to further commercialize that solution, even to protect those intellectual property rights. They just actually need a right to use that solution. So it's a win-win situation. Another comment on proportionality, but now more thinking not just about the requirements, but about your contract clauses. So for example, typical example, in your framework agreement, you would include some liability clauses. It's great that you protect yourself as a public buyer as much as possible, but consider that some really extensive liability clauses might limit participation. Some companies will not even bid to the tender if their liability is going to be too high, too risky. So just think about what you actually need. This one is a huge one. So include criteria that could be performance conditions during the execution of the project. Let me give an example with the project manager again. Imagine that in your selection criteria, you ask for the CV of a project manager who has 5 years of experience in the artificial intelligence field. And you don't ask that to be a performance condition during the execution of the project. You know what could happen? Many companies could actually indicate that they do have this person working in their staff. But when it comes to the execution of the project, they send the junior with 1 year of experience because you haven't asked that to be a performance condition. So really think, what do you need to be part of the execution as well? Don't think just about the selection of the tenders. Think long term, because in the end, a PCP also lasts long. So just carefully consider these kind of aspects. Examine the possibility to add minimum and maximum caps in the formula to evaluate prices. So of course, we always have maximum caps because in the end, resources are scarce, we are limited in our budget. So the maximum cap is not a problem. The minimum cap is interesting because you are de facto telling the market that you're looking for quality. We are focusing on quality. And of course, after below this price, this minimum cap, you're not going to get additional points if you lower the price. So it's not interesting for them to lower the price. It's interesting for them to focus on quality. To do this properly, it's important to have really a deep knowledge of the market. So really conduct a thorough state-of-the-art analysis and to have conducted a business case so that you can really understand what quality can you ask for which price, so that you can really set knowingly the minimum cap. I already mentioned this. I told you to have a checklist of the documents that go in each of the envelopes so that the provider can just check when they are submitting their tender document. But this is an additional step. My recommendation would be to have a list of all your tender documents, defining your tender documents, and if the provider is supposed to do something with that document or it's just for information only. Let me give you an example. You would say, tender document 1, this is the request for tenders. And you would explain, well, these are the instructions to play the game of PCP. So how you submit, what are we expecting for you, what kind of documentation you will need to submit. Does the provider need to do something with it to submit an offer? No, it's just for information only. Then you would have, for example, your framework agreement. The framework agreement is the umbrella contract that covers all the phases of the PCP. Does the provider need to do something with it? No, right now they don't. They will need to sign it if they are selected and awarded at the end of the evaluation phase. So see, this is important. But for example, the technical offer, the technical form, do they need to do something with it? Yes, they do. They need to fill it in, duly complete it, and then submit it as part of the technical envelope. It is really helpful for the providers to have this list. It actually also brings some light for some public buyers. So it's a win-win situation to have this list. And last but not least, be very, very clear about deadlines, because providers need to understand that there are some deadlines that are set in stone, and after a particular deadline, so for example, in our case in PCP-wise, after the 7th of January, they will not be able to submit any more tenders. They need to understand that. They need to understand that this is a date set in stone. And when it comes to innovation, to get really good proposals, you need time. So in any case, just give the market sufficient time to prepare. They might need to get to work with consortia, subcontractors, prepare an innovative offer. So always give time to the market. And speaking of dates, here you have a list of the most important dates when it comes to PCP-wise. As I told you, we are now in the tendering phase. So we have published our tender documents and we are replying to questions, conducting info sessions to give more information about how to submit your tenders, documents that you might need, and so on. And on the 26th of November, we have one of these sessions, so next week. If you're interested just to understand how this works in practice, or you're a supplier and are also interested in PCP-wise, we will be more than happy to welcome you there. And that's all on my side. I hope I didn't took too much time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks to you, Anna. It was quite insightful and indeed a bit beyond the time, but no worries. We'll try to catch up in the
So sorry.
sessions. No, but really, it was really, really interesting. And also the details you provided on how to launch a procedure like this, also from the perspective of the public buyer. It's really valuable and a piece of information that I think everyone here in the audience finds really useful. So thanks for that. Okay, so moving on, let's give the floor now to Noé Dietma from MedCities, who is here to present a few examples at more municipal level and possibly give just a slight info on what MedCities does as well, so we all know. And yeah, over to you, Noé. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene, and thanks for the invitation. I will be very brief because actually I will share my presentation with my colleague Diego Matoli from the municipality of Narni, who will present a specific case on PPI that we think that it was interesting. So I would just let me know if you can see my presentation.
You can see it, but if you could make it presentation, okay, like that. Perfect.
Now it's fine. Perfect. Okay, just 2 words about MedCities. We are a network of municipalities all around the Mediterranean. Currently, we have 81 municipalities from 18 different countries, and basically our, let's say, core business is to promote the exchange of good practices and knowledge between local administrations. So we are project partners in Procurement project. Procurement is a Euromed project that will actually finish next year, mid-2026. It will last 2.5 years in total, and it's implemented in 8 different Mediterranean countries. The topics that we are working in these projects is not only about PPI, but also green public procurement, because it is actually a transfer project that comes from 2 previous experiences, one in GPP and another one in PPI. Regarding the activities of the projects, what I think it can be interesting for you to know is that we have implemented a series of trainings targeting from one side local administrations and from the other side SMEs or companies in order to promote the GPP and PPI practices. And also we have implemented a specific mentoring program for local administrations in every project partner country, which is in 8 different countries. We have all used a common digital platform that we have improved somehow. And as a result, we have produced 8 different transferability plans in order to, let's say, scale up the solutions and learnings from the project to each region or country. In this sense, we have recently published a set of policy recommendations. I won't go into these recommendations because it's quite a long discussion that we cannot have right now. But so that you know that in the project website you can find the policy recommendations for public procurers to implement both GPP and PPI, and that we are currently supporting, like calling for to support these policy recommendations through a letter of support that you can find in our website, and in order to promote the use of both GPP and PPI in every country. Just to say that the letter of support is also open to not only to administrations but also to companies and institutions. And before I give the floor to Diego, because I think that's the most interesting part, to get to know the practice that they have developed in NARNI, I wanted just to highlight some of the challenges that we have found implementing the project, in this case in Catalonia, which was our region where we have implemented the activities. And this is the feedback we have received from the municipalities. I think it has been mentioned already, but actually the PPI experience that we have found in Catalonia, all of them are implemented thanks to the support of European funding or European programs. I think it was already mentioned by the previous speakers, but let's say it is still in this very initial phase. We have found some sandboxes experiences or experiences implemented by European programs, but it is still very I mean, municipalities are, let's say, starting in this process. They face budgetary, let's say, barriers. I mean, small municipalities have limited and rigid budgets. From the technical point of view, we have seen a lack of training, and also a lack of training for different departments. That this was something I think that is interesting to highlight, that that is not only, let's say, the legal department, the procurement department, but you also need also, of course, the political will, and it should be a cross cutting topic to work on within the municipality. And of course, there is also like the cultural, let's say, conservative mindsets in order to adapt to new solutions that we have seen in every municipality, and that it's very difficult to change if you don't have, of course, this political leadership. So I don't want to extend more my presentation because we are running out of time, and I prefer that Diego shares the case of NARNI, that I think it can be more illustrating. Thank you so much.
Hi and good morning, everybody. I really thank you, Noe, and the organization of the meeting, because it's really interesting. I would like to start from the last slide of Noe, when he said that there are some elements that are somehow jeopardizing the access to such kind of complicated procedures, in particular for the smaller municipalities that are less structured. So what we have done in a previous project, because as Noe said, that this is a capitalization project that starts from previous experience. What we have done in the previous project is demonstrate that something can be done. So with a previous project, and now I share my presentation, we demonstrate in practice that this kind of procedures can be implemented also in a smaller municipality. In particular, we have implemented PPI procedure in a small kindergarten in Narni. It's something like 13 years old structure with some technical and structural problems. In particular, in that slide you can see some plans of the structure and some picture of the structure before the intervention. These are energetic classification very low, and the main problem that come from this structure are the thermal insulation, seismic resilience, because I'd like to remember to everybody that we are in a complicated region, which is Umbria region in the middle of Italy, where the seismic events are pretty up and pretty soon. And this project will be implemented in 2017, and in October 2016 there has been the last earthquake that damaged several buildings in our region. And the third issue is the sensory learning and then the acoustic insulation. How we have identified the issue, mainly asking to the users of the structure, so from the kindergarten. So the first step was a needs analysis that the municipality implemented with the collaboration of the teachers and the parents of the child. That was the main issues arising from this needs analysis, and the following step was the organization open market consultation. It was very interesting because we asked to the market to provide the best possible solution. Here you can find some of the solution that answers to 3 of the 4 needs emergent during the needs analysis. So it was some specific walls that guarantee at the same time the improvement of seismic resilience and of course the acoustic insulation and also the thermal insulation of the structure. So this was very important because at the beginning the public administration didn't know which kind of solution could be available. Those solutions are not yet in the market, but are ready to be implemented for the first case on a natural, a real scale in real conditions. So it's exactly a PPI example. What was the problem in our case, because we have a really limited budget to make such kind of things, is that for the complete refurbishment of the structure there are not enough money. So we apply in a regional fund, an easy fund, in order to get further money from the regions, and we get 1 million euro for another fund. So we cross-matched the two funds. With the fund of the region, we made all the part related with the seismic adaptation and thermal insulation, and with the fund related with BlueMissionMed, we obtain the part related with creating an environment, a learning environment more appealing for the childs, which I remember that are childs from 6 months to 3 years. These are multi-structural walls and materials that, according with the principle of Montessori teaching method, stimulate the activity and the growing of the childs. That was what we have done. It was really a very interesting process, as you know, according with the European directive and also to the national procurement code. We identify the competitive procedure with negotiation, and all the process has been really successful. So in very few times, so we are able to obtain a very important results. So better services, a better structure for the users, for the childs, an occasion for the enterprises to test in the market the innovative product that they are, and of course also money saved from the administration, because we realized that during the negotiation phase with the private operators, we obtain a very good value for money for the things. The last word, that according with my point of view, with our point of view, the big challenge is to motivate, in particular, the smaller municipality to adopt such kind of things. And the only way to convince them is provide successful example. Not just example, but also documents. So the technician of the municipality needs to know how to handle such kind of procedure, which kind of modules and things they can adopt concretely in order to shorten the time, to ensure themselves from possible issue in terms of something related to the fair management of the different offer and the providers. That's what I can provide to you as a lesson learned from our project.
Wonderful, thank you so much, Diego and Noe. That was really interesting, and maybe in the open discussion, once we get there, we still have one presentation to go. We can maybe touch upon what you mentioned on ESI funds and how you use them in combination with it for this procurement call, as that could be really something we could try to further elaborate and capitalize on in future. So thank you so much. And then we have a final intervention by our first speaker, Sarah Bedin, who will be sharing another experience at EU level, if I'm correct. So Sarah, over to you again. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no slides. I can show a leaflet of the project that I would like to introduce. The project is named Poseidon PCP, Cross-Border Joint Poseidon PCP. The structure of this project that has been funded by European Commission closely mirrors the case presented by my colleague from Corvers, being a European funded project. It emerged that Corvus and I contributed to the standardization of the project submission guidance for European Commission that are quite prescriptive and extensively commented. So the aim is to provide procurers with tools that are understandable. I have been delegated by the procurer to present this case. I will not focus on the administrative structure nor the need analysis process that has been illustrated by the previous speakers. I would like to explain why, in my view, this particular project received the award as an innovative initiative this year from the European Innovation Council prize, received this prize because of the result. This project has been completed 2 years ago. So we have the result, and I would like to focus on the results achieved, just to give you a view on how these instruments can work effectively and deliver outcomes. So the Poseidon PCP represents a transformative approach to on the in situ decontamination of brownfield sites. Okay, so we have 5 leading procurers, namely the Port Authority in Trieste, Italy, that acted as lead procurer, and the Ayuntamiento de Bilbao in Spain, the Ayuntamiento of Vitoria-Gasteiz in Spain, SPACWE in Belgium, Valladolid in Portugal. They have been founded to drive high-risk Belt Road research and development in situ decontamination of heterogeneous polluted soils, anthropic soils in brownfield, composed by a mixture of industrial waste plus soil consisting of clays and sands polluted by petroleum, hydrocarbons, and PHAs. The first work that as technical partners we conduce has been a characterization of these sites, extracting a conceptual vision that find out and focus on the common element. This site has been identified through an extensive analysis across Europe because they share quite the same challenge. Okay, so these 5 procurers have launched a PCP to encourage companies across Europe and also participated companies from abroad, not European companies, to this PCP. And the achievement obtained after 3 phases, where the first phase was essentially the concept design, the second, the prototyping and validation in laboratory, and the third phase in parallel, the testing of the solution in full-scale solutions in parallel in 2 sites, 2 solutions in parallel in Bilbao and 2 solutions in parallel in Trieste. And these 4 pilots was implemented in parallel at the same time for the same period. The result, basically the challenge was launched to the market was to reduce the decontamination cost, because innovation that costs more is not absolutely fantastic. Reduce the time to clean up for medium to large sites, and of course, the pollutant reduction. So we have basically 3 drivers of innovation plus the sustainability. So the capacity to minimize the footprint and the social impact of the decontamination intervention. So we have basically 4 dimensions to assess the innovation and to evaluate innovation. At the end, we achieved, considering the solution, more promising solution that has been developed by the Teseco Bonifiche consortium that achieved TRL 8-9. So the solution has been capable to be developed since the market exploitation. We had results very promising in terms of decontamination cost. We achieved 30% of cost reduction comparing with landfill. We had 50% of reduced time, so they achieved faster cleanups of large sites, and 85% up to 99% reduction in key contaminants, especially hydrocarbons and heavy metals, in sites like Bilbao that I can assure was particularly polluted. So if the solutions worked well in Bilbao, we are quite optimistic in the larger exploitation. And the monitoring of the technology has been extended to many operating parameters to establish environmental and human health impact. What I can say is that the Teseco solution implement is a technology that use reagents and macrogenomics, a circulation of chemical biological solution for organic and inorganic decontamination. And the technology was designed for the biostimulation of the soil microbiota. So the solutions is particularly sustainable, and this is the result obtained. From a business perspective, the PCP has successfully demonstrated the commercial potential of this technology, especially the winner, the best placed supplier, that at the end of the project was able to sell the solutions to several key public entities, including Tuscany, Friuli Venezia Giulia. Any important players have adopted the solutions. At the end of the project, that is an achievement quite important. This demonstrates that providing clear pathway for demonstrating and to test the solutions give a clear advantage. There has been an important work to engage not only suppliers, but the demand side representative and stakeholders, including regulators and certification bodies. This made the solutions already verified by independent authorities. So these obviously provide concrete opportunities to exploit the solutions. We provide also effort to consolidate the procurers network, to pool common needs, and to mitigate risks associated with early stage innovation. We launched a consultation and again engagement round to inform of call for interest, to attract attention from soil owners and procurement agency across Europe. The network of public and private actors is still ready to implement PPI. Some actors have implemented the action using structural funds, but again, we find a lack of funding at European level to sustain and promote cross-border joint PPI, which are absolutely effective and key for the suppliers. We constituted a monitoring committee and a technology committee that worked providing early feedback to ensure continual improvement of project outcomes. And importantly, we have to say that the awardees are mainly SMEs that have been able to involve the research ecosystem, and I'm thinking about universities and research centers. But the important aspect in this type of project is that the guiding role, the driving role is acting by the SMEs. They they involve university, they involve the research centers, but they have the key role in developing and in structuring the market offering. This is a case that I would like to share because of its concrete results.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah. No, totally. And thanks all. Yeah, we don't have much time to discuss, but I would like to at least pick your brain on a couple of things. And thank you all. And please, I mean, thanks all for keeping up the audience, and feel free to drop any questions, comments on the chat. I think maybe one consideration, building on what we said before we start to complement this webinar with the case study and the lesson. So indeed, the ambition here we have is to have consider how much innovative form of procurement, and notably what we've just discussed, as an important tool in an ongoing process. So maybe the main difference, and I could really think through a lot from what all of you have said, is that we don't necessarily, in the context of the mission ocean, there are regions that are increasingly, and actors overall, cities and ports and islands that we've been engaging with across the past few years, they are committed to address mission ocean challenges that has been introduced by our colleagues in the very beginning. So those, I mean, of course, what you present, Diego, the challenge and the region are not necessarily very maritime, but the approach is and the lessons you offer are actually very good for us. And what you just discussed, Sarah, is closer in a way. And we deal with sea pollution, we deal with restoration of ecosystem, marine and coastal ecosystem. We deal with innovative blue economy, so also something much broader. And these are common challenges that are really pathway to achieve broader EU visions. I mean, we didn't mention the most recent pact for the ocean, or ocean pact for the Commission, but really like a sustainable, innovative blue economy. So the whole ecosystem related to the exploitation of the sea, it's a key ambition for Europe. So in a sense, what you all are saying at different scale are ingredients that we would really like to build upon. So we have certain commitment, for example, by regions on achieving certain challenges. There has been a recent project, Interact project, that has really supported call for like a share collaborative thinking at the local level to identify solution to address the mission objective. And they have the solution. Now the challenge is how to finance that. And I think what you're saying, what I'm hearing is, well, public procurement could play a role, should by no means be the only tool, is one element, including possible synergies with EU funds that has been mentioned by a few of you, and also by linking then, once you have the solution, linking this further scaling up of solution in other territories or at another level through additional actors, notably venture capitalists or more commercial entities. So in a way, it's really creating this platform and this cooperation through time, and different actors can really work together. And the beauty, so to say, of the mission is that it's a shared frame of challenges and purposes. So allow for different regions, different cities, different islands, etc., to really work together on this. What obviously is very critical and very insightful from what you offer is the reflection on the challenges. Then, of course, I take the point of overall of culture, also of need of guidance, practical insights, practical tools, operational support. I see from looking at the website of all the project that there's already quite a few lessons learned and even practical recommendations. So that certainly we can build upon. But also the main element is also how to mobilize funding, no? Because how to make this blending almost of funding really before, during, and after the procurement allocation. And I don't know if Diego, maybe I can pick your brain on that, because I assume you're the closest to this issue. You mentioned, as Irene pointed out, this use of EU funds to work with your local funds. How that actually happened, can you elaborate a little bit further on what you practically did? What are the challenges, opportunities? Because obviously this is an area, I mean, we know that the next financial framework for the EU is still quite in the air. There will be quite heavy negotiation, but obviously there's a great focus on synergies between different, well, in principle, greater focus of synergies and blending between different sources, national, regional, and different type of programs. So can you elaborate a little bit further, what you did, how that worked, what are the challenges there? Is there any precondition you need to consider? All of this in a couple of minutes, but thanks for that. And
yeah, first of all, I have to say that the offices of the municipality was absolutely perfect in all the procedure, because they face these challenges with with a brave heart. But the problem is divided in this case in two parts. So the first part, it's easy, because if you get found from the European, from ERDF, then you can apply any kind of procedure in order to identify a service provider. So we get the money and we apply the principle of PPI. So the first part, it was easy. The second part, which is the core of the question, is how we were able to cross-match the two parts. So we, first of all, we adopt, as I said, the same procedure, so the open procedure with negotiation for both the tendering procedures. And we open just one call with two different, in Italian we say lotti, so with different parts. The first part has been founded with the ERDF, and the second part has been founded with the other part of the ERDF coming from the project. It was not easy, the management of that part, because we have to ensure that we are not in a condition of double funding, but with a clear procedure, we differentiated each one of the in the same tender, differentiated the two parts with two different lotti, we say in Italian. I don't know exactly which is the terms in English.
Lots are okay. Lots are okay.
Okay,
Easy.
perfect. Of course, we identify in each one of the two parts the specific code, etc., etc. But the idea is that first of all, the big issue is to explain to our region what we are going to do. So we said that we have some money to make some specific intervention, and we have other money to make another part of the intervention. We will adopt an innovative procedure to manage everything in the same time, and we have done a different meeting with them, with the technician of the region, in order to value any kind of criticism that can arise during the procedures. But at the end, thanks to this dialogue, not only with the market, but also with the funding body, everything was pretty simple managed. That's what we have done. Of course, the last thing that I want to say, that you need to have a planning. So first of all, you have to identify which are the needs. If you have to invest in a building, something like 10,000 euro, you have to value which are the possible source of funding for that money. And according with the possibility, you have to somehow divide it, the part of the investment in different parts. And of course, there are some funds that guarantee to you the investment in some parts. For instance, in the seismic resilience, we ask contribution for seismic resilience from the region. And the other part for innovative procurement procedures. So this is what we have done. And I think that even for a municipality of less than 20,000 of inhabitants, with just 3 technicians in the public works department, it was feasible. So I think that it will be feasible for everybody, or more or less.
So the good message you passed is that it's actually feasible, and I mean it's more a matter of the bravery, maybe, as you say, but also to be clear and assisted in how, you know, how to go step by step, which are all information that now exists. I mean, I think we need to close. Maybe if I may, but very, very briefly, because kind of related to that, when Sara, you mentioned the barriers, you mentioned cross-border frictions. Could you very, very briefly elaborate on that too? Because we are pushing for this kind of cross-border cooperation. We're also trying to work in looking at use of grants and use of money coordinated by different authorities across country. Can you really, in 40 seconds or 1 minute, elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, there are no frictions for the legal framework, disparities, differences, or divergences. PCP is defined by an exemption that has been transposed in all national legislation similarly, or in a systematic way. We have some differences in the legal framework ruling open market consultation, which is the preliminary phase to innovation procurement. So we have significant divergence in the concept and in the rules governing this step. But I was referring especially to the local registries and accreditation list that authorize only some subjects that have particular characteristics, including local registration, as accompanying local registries in national registries to operate in specific sectors. This created a lot of pain for companies that paradoxically has been forced to establish a new operational offices in the member states to be authorized to intervene as in the contamination sector. So we have these not mutual automatic recognition and standardization of the requirement to be eligible for specific activities across Europe. We have barriers concerning the signature, the administrative documentation needed to present. So we have paid a lot of attention and work to establish in the Albo Nazionale degli Operatori,
the registry of local operators in the sector.
Degli operatori ambientali. We established a new process in English to provide assistance to the foreign companies in order not to create barriers for them to participate and to be authorized to decontaminate, intervene in the field of Trieste, and respectively for the others to intervene in the Spain site. So there is no homogeneous authorization pathways, and there are severe obstacles arising from the national registries and national legislation not related to procurement, but environmental law, for example.
Okay.
You know,
so
we have many examples of these obstacles.
So in a way, yeah, there's also a challenge of harmonization, and there should be work in leveraging this. Okay, great. I don't know, Anna, if you have one extra comment on your side before we really need to close, unfortunately, because of course there will be a lot to be, but it was a great kind of kickstart for us to really dig deeper in this area, which seems very promising, in fact. But yeah, please, Anna.
Just a minor comment, because you were also mentioning that PCP, it should really be like the platform to actually consider the escalation. So some things that you should ask in your PCP, and I didn't mention today, but probably next time I will, request your participants to consider the participation of venture capital, how they are going to involve this venture capital. I would also recommend not putting yourself as public buyer as the responsible for that, but just maybe supporting them in the venture capital when they are contacting venture capital, and also the commercialization aspect. So normally you could have as a weighted award criteria that they start developing their commercialization plans for afterwards. And in this way, you will really understand how they plan to scale up their solution. So
a clear link to that. And that's also for us is good because it's really reinforcing the local ecosystem of actors and research, business and investors. Thanks a lot. I think was really, this was meant to be maybe quite a specific and a little administrative discussion. In fact, was very lively and very, very interesting. And so thank you all very much. I give the floor back to Irene for some final remarks, and we certainly keep in contact very closely. Please, Irene or Marta.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. It was indeed really interesting, and I hope for our audience as well. This session has been recorded, so you will receive it afterwards, so you can watch it and share it with your colleagues if relevant. Okay, so before we close, I just wanted, now that I have you here still, to show one slide with our community platform. If you can go to the next, that one, exactly. So there you have the QR. Well, as a project, as BlueMissionMed, we have created this online community of stakeholders. It's really a space where you can connect with other like-minded stakeholders, learn from training opportunities like this one, but also others, learn about funding, learn about solutions that are active in the Mediterranean. So it's a quite bubbling community, also quite new, but we encourage you to join us there and be informed of our activities, have matchmaking opportunities, and overall just stay in touch with our project. So we invite you to join that. And then as a final slide, we wanted to inform you that we have a final masterclass going on if we can go to the next one, exactly, on how to pitch to investors in the blue economy. So we did a series of masterclasses very much touching upon different angles of access to finance, and this one would be more perhaps focused on from the perspective of the solution owners, the solution providers, how to pitch their solutions to private investors in EU context, but also beyond. So this session will take place next Monday from 11 to 1. So save the date in case it's interesting to you as well. And yes, we stay in touch. Thank you so much, everyone, for your contributions. They were very valuable, and see you next time, hopefully.
Thank you very much. Thank you all, and thanks a lot to the speakers.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
Bye. Thank you.